Good afternoon, all of you. I am Aarti Joshi from Makhanlal. I am Aarti Joshi from Media Management Department of Makhanlal University, Bhopal. I welcome you all the dignitaries and participants at this 5 days faculty development program on implementation for quality education. This is the second session of second day at this program. Today our guest is Dr. JP Gurudatta ji from Gujarat University. It is our great pleasure to have you here, sir. Before proceeding further, I would like to give a brief introduction about respected sir. Sir, I have permission from you, sir. Do I have permission?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Gurudatta ji is currently working as head of the department at Advanced Business Studies at the Deputy Director, IQAC Gujarat University. Priorly to this, he was appointed as a director and joint CEO of Quality Assurance, Extension, Research and Innovation at Nodal Officer of RUSA and Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat, Department of Higher Education, Government of Gujarat. He was also member of Secretary of State Project Directorate. He was appointed as member of drafting new education policy phase first for the Gujarat state. His education qualifications list is very long. MCom gold medalist, MBA from USA.
Okay, ma'am. Let us not discuss that one. We can start if you permit me to share this.
Sir, it is my pleasure to read your introduction here, sir. It's my pleasure, sir.
You can cut it short, ma'am.
Okay, sir. He is holding CEO position of the Grand Academic Contourism NGO and Honorary Director of Global Academic Assessment Contourism. He was President of Gujarat and North Gujarat Management Teachers Association, International Society of Applied Commerce. Sir, very welcome you here. Can we start the session, sir?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for
now I hand it over the mic to JP, sir. Sir, all screens are yours.
Thank you very much, ma'am. At the outset, I wish very good afternoon to all the dignitaries, respected Vice Chancellor Shri KG Suresh sir. I'm also thankful to Kanchan Bhatia ma'am and Manisha Verma ma'am for giving me an opportunity to share my views on quality assurance, ranking, accreditation, and assessment. I'll have to put off my video because I have a little bit poor connectivity here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course.
We had heavy rain yesterday and today also. So because of cloudy environment, the connectivity of internet is not proper.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Fine. So once again, I would like to congratulate team Department of Media Management, Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, Bhopal, for organizing this wonderful faculty development program, which is actually a need of the hour. I've divided the entire presentation in 4 segments. I'm going to talk about education policy. I'm also going to talk about the role of IQAC. I'm also going to talk about the outcomes because as you are aware that in new national education policy, much stress are given on the outcome-based education. So I'll be discussing about that also. And later on, we'll discuss about the concept of quality, which is highly misunderstood by the educationalists as well as the teachers and the students, all the stakeholders. First, let me start with the concept of what is education policy. So if we ask why we need education policy, or if we make a survey on knowing the purpose of education policy, 80 to 85% of the faculty members or of the philanthropists or those who are running the institutions will not be able to give the correct answer. But let me share this first the purpose of education policy, or we can say it's a framework to educate students and enhance the potential of higher learning. So knowledge generation is the primary thrust of any education policy. If there is only knowledge consumption, or if there is no knowledge creation or generation, then there is no use of any kind of education policy. And therefore, if you see the entire document of higher education, national education policy, you will find that at every paragraph, this word is there: outcome of education, or outcome-based education, or graduate outcomes. These are all the words which are used frequently by the policymakers. Why? We'll see that later. The basic question comes here: how to define the act of knowledge? Means we know knowledge generation is the hardcore of the education policy or any learning system. But the question comes here that how to define that act of knowledge is happening in the institution. I must say that it's a good confession on the part of the policymakers that they have admitted that currently there is a crisis in knowledge creation. There's an institutional crisis happening across the India, and not only across the India. If you read a book of Alan Bloom on America's higher education, you will find that even in United States also situation of higher education is seen. So I was talking about the act of knowledge. The act of knowledge is possible when learning is possible. To create learning or to ensure qualitative learning, we need inquiring spirit. We have to inculcate inquiry mind or questioning spirit amongst the students as well as amongst the teachers. So the basic thrust, we can say that of ensuring act of knowledge is all about creating questioning mind or inquiring mind. So if questioning minds are not there, if inquiry minds are not there, then I must say that knowledge generation is not happening in particular institution. Looking to the policy, as far as accreditation, as the topic which is given to me is on accreditation, strategies for accreditation, assessment and audit. I would like to give this brief idea about the diagram. There are four structures which are proposed by the National Education Policy Makers under the umbrella of Higher Education Commission of India. So most probably University Grant Commission will be replaced by the Higher Education Commission of India. The first vertical of Higher Education Commission of India will be the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, that is NHERC. It will function as the common single point regulator for the higher education sector, including teacher education, but excluding medical and legal education. So teacher education means the B.Ed colleges, PTC colleges and all that will be very much part of this, but at the same time, medical, legal education, as well as the pharmaceutical education will be out of this. The second vertical of Higher Education Commission of India will be a meta-accrediting body. This is related to us, meta-accrediting body called the National Accreditation Council. So now, right now we have National Assessment Accreditation Council, which is popularly known as NAAC. But as per new education policy, NAAC will be replaced by NAAC. 1A will be removed, and they are proposing this as the meta-accrediting body. Means this particular accreditation will be based on Norms like, you can say, public self-disclosure, good governance, and outcomes, as I was talking about outcomes. So three pillars, you can say, of this National Accreditation Council: public self-disclosure, good governance, and outcomes. And as far as these three pillars are concerned, the self-disclosure is, of course, of quantitative nature. Good governance is of qualitative nature, and outcome is of both qualitative and quantitative nature. The third vertical of HECI will be the Higher Education Ground Council, which will carry out funding and financing of higher education based on transparent criteria. Now here, the policymakers are telling that it is based on some transparent criteria, but I would like to say one thing, that this will be totally linked up with your grades, your rank in NIRF and in NAC or NBA or any other accrediting body of the Government of India, or will be working under this National Accreditation Council. So if you want a grant of any nature, maybe a research, maybe equal opportunity sale, infrastructure, you need to score, whether you are from self-finance college or university, or a private college or university, public, state college or university, or government college or university. The basic criteria would be the rank or a grade. So if you have scored the grade or rank, you will get the grant. So that is what the purpose of this. The fourth and the last part of this HECI will be the General Education Council, which will frame expected learning outcomes for higher education. So again, expected learning outcome. Again, the word outcome comes here. Also referred to as graduate attributes. So that is again expected learning outcome or graduate attributes. So let me tell you one more thing, that the professional councils such as ICAR, which is related to agricultural research, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Veterinary Council of India, NCPE, COA, Council of Architecture, NCVET, kind of will act as a professional council body. So they will be separated, but they will certainly give idea, their experience to these agencies. See, let me again clarify one thing, that when we say what are the sources of knowledge, how we get the knowledge. So there are four ways to get the knowledge. One, certainly ideological based knowledge or information, rationalism, spirituality, and empiricism. These are the oldest, or you can say these are the ways to get the knowledge. Now, being a higher education institution, maybe your university or college, you should try to devise the mechanism where students can get all this from the institution. So you can say a student can learn skills, student can learn good virtues, updated with the information, they get knowledge also, they understand the application of knowledge also. So how this is possible? So let me tell you one thing, friends, that as far as ideology is concerned, ideology always gives you information. It updates you with the information. So if I say that Gandhi was doing this, Mahatma Gandhi was doing this, simply you'll be getting some information. So you should have a one department, or there has to be some mechanism which deals with the ideology, is information part. The other is empiricism. Empiricism word came from experience, and you should also devise a way to share knowledge which is based on empiricism, which helps you to give both ability and prepositional knowledge. Rationalism helps you to provide both information as well as knowledge. So there has to be again a mechanism which deals with this. And of course, some sort of spirituality which helps you with self-reflexivity and virtues. So I must say that any institution you are coming from, whether a journalism or a medical or because see, I have been observing since last so many years that even in my university also, or wherever I go, I visit first history department. I ask people that what you teach. They immediately say we teach this medieval period, we teach ancient period, we teach modern period, like that. Then I get surprised that history is not subject for that. History is not chronology. History is not about chronology. History is something about that. Why we need history subject? Because if we want to innovate, if we want to contribute something, we need to understand history. History is always for contributing something new, is not for teaching chronology. So I guess this can be like these four are the main things which IQAC can implement in the college or the university to make the holistic view of the education. If you refer to if you refer to the different accreditation assessment ranking framework, you will find that these are the areas which are highly used. Like these are the areas you'll find in all types of assessment accreditation agencies. You'll find research, learning outcomes, leadership, means governance, communication, strategies, administration, internationalization, collaboration, competency, perception is what this NIRF is keen about. Even world's most innovative university ranking also you'll find some points for perception, ranking, rating, and accreditation. So these are the departments, or I would say these are the initiatives which are covered in almost all the types of assessment and accreditation agencies. So you can say quality assessment is basically summative in nature, while quality audit is formative in nature. So quality audit is used for quality assurance, while quality assessment is used for accreditation and ranking framework. I've seen that as all of you are from journalism university, and I always read in the newspaper about the poor performance of Indian higher education institution at global level. And I always read the standard news given by all the reporters that unfortunately we have 50,000 institution or we have 1,000 university, but none of them would secure rank at PHE ranking or QS ranking or world's most innovative ranking, blah, blah, blah. So I would like to say that we are unfortunately not applying to this ranking, or we are not right now knowing about the parameters of this, and therefore we are not working in that direction. Once we'll start working for this ranking and all, certainly we'll get a good number of university in the list of QS and TH. These are the different assessment, accreditation, and ranking framework available across the globe. The first, where I am a peer team member, National Assessment Accreditation Council, and the last GAC, that is Global Academic Assessment Consortium. I am the director of this GAC, and in between you find almost the second last AAA academic and administrative audit that was developed by the government of Gujarat, and I was the director and joint CEO of that department. Then you are aware with the other. The third one, SQAA, is the school education framework that is not applicable to higher education, university, and colleges. Now coming to the IQAC. IQAC, let me tell you, I was just surfing the website of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, and I surprised to find that there is no IQSC dedicated web page on the website. And then I realized that maybe because you are AICTE, therefore, or AICTE approved, therefore you have not applied, or you are not keen on making this kind of sale.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. We have
Yeah.
IQC committee, sir. It is not in website, but as per UGC guidelines, we have that committee. And
So
we have
you-
some outside members also in that.
So, ma'am, I would say that you should design one dedicated web page for IQSC
Sure.
as early as possible. And
Sure,
I'll come to that point also, what
Okay.
can be a part of this IQSC, because if you want to score good marks, or if you want to score good at the ranking and assessment accreditation level, you have to have efficient IQSC cell. Then only it is possible, else it would be difficult. There are a lot of misconception also about the IQSC. That IQSC is it's just like administrative body. But let me tell you that IQSC is always above the head of the institution. Means if I say IQSC, IQSC is above the vice chancellor, IQSC is above the principal, IQSC is above the director. Because it's a group of intellectuals who are constantly working on developing new initiatives, new areas, knowledge creation, knowledge generation, and all. They are contributing not only in teaching, learning, and research, but they are contributing in alumni placement, counseling, co-curricular, extracurricular, student teachers development, innovation, strategy, consultancy, and whatnot. So all qualitative and quantitative aspects both are covered as far as IQSC is concerned. So IQSC should try to get maximum certification for the institution. They should also innovate new methods of teaching and learning. How to do all this, I'll come to that point. They should encourage research innovation by taking necessary steps, promotion of knowledge by conducting activities, creating conducive environment for teachers, students for teaching, learning, and research, and coordinate with the placement and all. Now, the first thing which IQSC should do, the first thing is to develop the policy. If you have active IQSC say, but if you do not have a quality policy, then I guess the cell is of no use. The first and fundamental thing of IQSC is to develop one quality policy for the organization, for the institution. How to develop quality policy, you can contact me. I can guide you about that, because it takes some 6 hours of time to develop this quality policy. So that is number one. A research, innovation, and consultancy policy, that is IPR policy, because as I said that the new education policy is emphasizing more on outcome. So whatever research you are doing, whatever innovation you are doing, is there any outcome or is there any knowledge creation after doing that? So that is, again, for that you need to have IPR policy. A purchase and maintenance policy, of course, if you are from government, university, state public university, you need to have this. Swayam policy, you can say online education policy, because since last couple of years, this online education has is like going like anything. So do we have online education policy? Do we have a sale who can approve teachers or who can approve the content for the online education? I've seen that many colleges and universities, they keep posting all the videos on YouTube and they claim that it's our online education contribution, but that's not. You should have LMS, a learning management software, a system, a specific system wherein you can upload all your open educational resources for students and other stakeholders. Green policy, of course, environment policy, you can say, eco policy, you can say, or I would say, instead of using this word green policy, you should have a sustainable policy. So that is a new word, sustainable policy. So you can replace that with green policy. And gender champion policy, that was a scheme by UGC introduced in 2017. So if you have active sale of gender champion, make one policy related to that and upload it on your IQAC web page. Yes, documentation. These are the minimum documents required on IQAC web page. If you wish to go for any kind of assessment accreditation, this will help you to do things better at different levels. So these are the must things you need to have on your IQAC web page. The first is strategic plan. Strategic plan is basically a long-term plan. So minimum you should develop this plan for 5 years, and maximum it should be for 20 years. Five to 20 years of time. So you can make it for 5, 10, 15 or 20. But remember that when you frame or when you make this strategic plan, keep two things. One, these specific themes. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do in coming 5 years, 10 years or 15 years? And your commitment year-wise, that how you are going to achieve this particular theme. Say for example, if your one of your theme is to get funding from alumni. I'm just giving you one example. Say to get funding from alumni association. So you should have commitment like this, that in the first 6 months we'll go for the registration. In the next 6 months, we'll try to get ATG so that we can get donation from alumni member. Then we will have 1 crore corpus fund each year from the alumni members. So by the end of 10 years, we'll have some 8 crores of corpus fund, which will be used for so and so purpose. So that way, you should have themes for different initiatives and departments, and at the same time, commitment. And every year, you should try to submit the action taken report on this and upload it on your IQAC web page. SOPs, standard operating procedures. How to make this, I'll discuss this later. Feedback manual for all stakeholders, which includes SLOs. SLO means students learning outcome, which is known as PO, PSO, CO, program outcome, program specific outcome, and course outcome. Infrastructural feedback is also to be asked. Teachers, about governance, about administration, and other student support activities like library, auditorium, seminar hall, sports room, indoor, outdoor, etc. More thing to know about this, that feedback, when you design feedback manual, try to design it for all, not only for the students, but get your feedback from alumni, get your feedback from parents, get your feedback from students, get your feedback from the nearby industry experts, or if you are a government unit or a public university, then also try to get the feedback from the government officials like commissionerate or principal secretary. Then best practice manual. There are a lot of confusion about the best practices. Some say that there has to be not one practice, there can be more than one practice. Some people, even NEC, are also of the opinion that all the institutions should submit 2 best practices as per NAC format. Now, what is that NAC format, that I'll discuss later. So, friends, let me share one thing here. You can have department-wise best practice. It's not necessary that best practice should be 2 or 1 only. If you have 10 departments in the university or in a college, try to develop best practice, unique practice, innovative practice department wise. So there is no restriction about this, or there is no, you can say, a policy, a fixed policy about the best practice. One more thing, that when you say this is our best practice, then make sure that nobody is doing this or similar thing in any of the nearby education institution. I've been to Bhopal School of Social Sciences as NEC peer team member, and I remember that last year I suggested to Father John PJ that if you can focus on some computer on wheels or knowledge on wheels kind of initiative, then I guess you'll be able to contribute not only to digital India, but you'll be also contributing to rural or slum area students. So he is very dynamic person. So he accepted this, and he also, launched 2 or 3 similar kind of knowledge on wheels, where there are 3 or 4 computers in one tempo. Every day it's roaming around, and they are teaching to all poor area students, slum area students, and they got a wonderful results. They have feedback which is also uploaded on the YouTube also, and so this is best practice. You find some result, you get some result, you get some output, you contribute actually. So this is what the best practice is about. Then IQAC agenda minutes, annual reports, and attendance sheet. Code of conduct for teachers and students. If you have not designed code of conduct, then better you follow a code of conduct of UGC, which is already there on the website of UGC. Just go and download. And most important, if you are applying for the second cycle or third cycle, then what incremental steps you have taken so far, or what significant contribution you have made from cycle 1 to cycle 2, that is to be uploaded on the page. So these are the things. I guess, can you remove this red line? Someone has tickled the screen.
This is my request to all of you. Please don't write anything on screen. Please don't write anything on screen. Please remove it. Who has done that? Please remove it.
So, ma'am, I was talking about this, that IQSC web page, a dedicated web page, should have minimum the structure of IQSC, all the policy which I have discussed. Neeta and Hart, please.
Neeta ji,
please, ma'am.
Please don't do this. Neeta ji, this is my request to you. Please don't do this on screen.
Excuse me, ma'am. I have not done anything earlier. It was happened just by mistake. This
Okay,
blue thing is I have done. That is by mistake. I have not done anything earlier.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, all the policies, then all documentation which I have discussed, important links of UGC CARE and other websites, further, future activities, academic calendar, strategies, functions, and benefits, AQR if you are applying for the second cycle, NAC certification or any other certification if you have, and inbuilt DVB system by appointing external agency or committee. Inbuilt DVB system, it's a data validation and verification agency. NAC has empaneled around 5 agencies to evaluate, to check the data which is submitted by you. You can also devise some mechanism at like in-house by IQAC, wherein some external members, external faculty members can be appointed to evaluate the data, to evaluate the system, to evaluate the functioning of IQAC on yearly basis. So that will going to help you to show a better performance at different levels. Yes, I was talking about that SOP, It's a standard operating procedure. So I'm just giving you one example here that how to make standard operating or how to develop this procedure in your institution. Basically, we need three things here: objectives, mapping, steps, and list of documents. First of all, you have to define or you have to write down what is the purpose of the particular initiative or particular department or particular activity. SOP is basically required if you are applying for ISO certification, but at the same time, NAAC and NBA, they are also expecting that the institution should have a standard operating procedure to have a better documentation at the institution level. So first of all, I've taken an example of RSP, that is relationship with students and parents, which is known as parent teacher meeting, PTM, or students parent teacher meeting. So if you're doing this at an institution or college, then first of all, write down the objectives, why you are doing this, what is the purpose of doing this RSP or PTM, right? So I've written here, improve the level of understanding about the parents and students, teachers, and the institute, make student-teacher interaction more effective, provide students and parents a platform to share opinion about staff and institute and exchange suggestions. Then after writing all the objectives, better you map the entire activity. So how you are going to do this? So if it is a student meeting, you will have first orientation program. Then you will select a class representative from the orientation program. Then you will communicate to the parents. Then you will explain the schedule and guidelines to parents and students. Then you will, if there is any genuine problems, then it will be discussed with the principal. And then finally, you will have a counseling and feedback form for students. Then this all how you are going to follow, those steps must be there. These are the way you are going to follow this entire meeting. And then how you are going to maintain the record. This is very important. So just for one particular activity, we have to maintain here 8 different types of records. For example, first is invitation letter. Invitation letter to for whom? For parents, right? It will be in the letter format. So the standard format should be prepared and it should be filed. And then you should give a record number. So your college name will come here, as your college is University is Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication. So you can write down MC and UJC kind of code. Then dash RSP stands for the activity name, relationship with students and parents. Oblique 1 is the record of the document, and oblique 00 is for the year. If it is 21, then put 21, 22 like that. And retention period, for how long you are going to retain this document, for 1 year, 2 years, or like that. Then registration form. So whenever students is registering for the orientation program or parents are coming, you should have a registration form. It should be in the form. Record should be in the form. Then leave summary report, attendance sheet, parents feedback form, complaint record, report photos, and counseling form. This is the way to maintain the entire record of one particular activity. Now, similarly, you can have this type of activities in college or university: extracurricular activity, admission and customer property management, examination, library, HRM, relationship, co-curricular activity, seminar, paper writing and presentation, classroom teaching, industrial tour and training, building and infrastructure maintenance, safety, relationship with society and stakeholders, administration and accounts, and internal communication. So these are the different types of activity which can be used for maintaining the documentation for doing this standard operating procedure. And this is very important that these SOPs are based on PDCA format, plan, do, check, act. So earlier you are planning for the entire year, and then actually you are doing it. Then you are comparing your planning with doing, and if there is positive or negative, gap, then you will take action on it. So this particular analysis is used to find out what is the difference between your planning and actual doing, and what is your master plan to overcome the negative outcome of the entire planning. Yes. Now, one more thing I would like to say here. If any faculty member, if you have any query, you can ask in between, no issues. Yes, certificate course or any program must have. We have been observing a lot that nowadays flyers are coming like messages in like so and so college, so and so university offering certificate course of 30 hours, 50 hours, 40 hours. As per the NAAC, 30 hours evaluated course, 30 hours is must. You cannot have a course below 30 hours, right? That is the minimum requirement. Now, if you are offering certificate course, please make sure that these are the things you keep in mind, or you should share it with your students. The name of the course with course code, name of the program with the credit, marks distribution, core requisite of the syllabus if required, references. Now, up to this, it is okay, everyone is following. But now onwards, I have rarely found in the syllabus of this type of certificate courses where institute or college is offering or showing this. Assessment tools. What are the tools for assessment? Because continuous evaluation system is must nowadays. So what assessment tools you are using for continuous evaluation? What are the objectives of your course? Relationship between course outcome and program outcome. If this particular certificate course is a part of any program, course is subject and program is degree. So if you are offering MA is a program, and in MA you find one paper of history, say modern history. So modern history is a course. And if you are offering any certificate course which is part and parcel of the program, then what is the relationship between the course outcome and program outcome? That mapping should also be a part of this certificate course. Which taxonomy you are going to use, Bloom's or Solow? Both are outdated now. We have a more better taxonomy. I am going to discuss that, and model question paper. So all things should be a part of the syllabus design. Not only first 4 or not only first 5. Yes. I would also like to make some clarification here about the breach course certification. Number 1. Breach course is not only for those who are coming from a different stream. For example, generally we keep a breach course for those.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened?
Sir, any problem? Any distraction you have, sir?
Somebody says something. Someone says something.
All are muted here, sir.
Somebody's mic was on, I think.
I think so by mistake.
Okay. Sorry.
You can continue, sir.
Fine. So, breach course clarification I would like to give. that bridge course is not only for those who are coming from a different stream. Bridge course is also for those who are coming from a vernacular medium and wish to complete a course in English medium. You can have a bridge course for those, say, studied up to 12th standard in a Hindi medium and now want to enroll for English medium college. For them also you can have a bridge course. And those who are coming from science stream, so 11th and 12th standard completed in science stream and now wish to take admission in psychology, a BA psychology. So for them also you can have a bridge course. So bridge course is for those who are from different stream as well as from a different language background. Remedial classes. See, again, we have found that remedial classes are generally organized for weak students. Right, fine. When we ask to the institution that what we are doing for weak learners, I mean slow learners and advanced learners, so immediately they say that advanced learners are asked to write a research paper or present a paper in a conference or seminar, and slow learners we have a remedial classes. Okay, fine. So in remedial classes, you are not only supposed to teach them the subject which they fail to understand. In remedial classes, you are supposed to counsel them. So the counseling system should be linked with your remedial classes. Then only you will be able to get a good result from the remedial coaching to the weak students, slow learners. PO, PSO and CO, communication and attainment, how program outcome, program specific outcome and course outcomes are communicated to stakeholders. And at the same time, how program outcomes, program specific outcomes and course outcomes are attained or achieved by the institution. Do you have any kind of clarification, or do you have any mechanism which is very transparent to communicate and attain this PO, PSO and CO, which we know as SLOs? If not, then make the one. Never use this approxy in any of the document which you are uploading on the website or which you are sending to the NAC or ND or NIR. Never use this word, because being an institution, if you are not clear with your own data, then I guess you are not doing the job which is expected from you. So never use this approximate word that we have more than 2,000 students or approximately 2,000 students. Use a specific numbers. We have presented, our faculty members have presented more than or approximately 300 papers during this year. Don't write this. Use specific numbers always. There is one more clarification I would like to give here, is about culture and environment. You often see that people, they keep on writing. अच्छा, क्या हुआ वापस? Okay, so these institutions keep writing that we have a research culture. Some of them, they write we have a research environment, but they don't know the difference between these two. When you use these two terms, you have to be very careful. When you say research culture, culture means how you behave. Means you are behaving a research way. If you say research culture, so if you do not have proper evidences or proper work which supports this particular word research culture, then please do not use this kind of word, else you will be in trouble when the PA team will come. So avoid this type of writing big jargons. If you can use a simple word, but make sure you have to be very selective in using the word. Use each word as a cash value, because लिखते टाइम तो लिख लेंगे पर बाद में बॉम्ब फूटेगी उसका, वो आपको पता नहीं चलेगा. For example, if you do not have research-based learning or a project-based learning, and you are writing in the SSR that you have a research culture, then I guess it's a mockery on the part of the institution. So don't do that. This, yes. और भी बहुत कुछ है मैडम, बीच में किसी को पूछना हो तो बताइएगा, मैं रुक के उनको वो समझा दूंगा, क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, छोटे टाइम में पढ़ाना डिफिकल्ट है.
यस सर, क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन भी मतलब लास्ट में रखेंगे सर, आपका प्रेजेंटेशन हो जाएगा उसके बाद.
अच्छा, नो इश्यूज. ओके फाइन.
ओके सर,
थैंक यू. This model I have developed, I guess the first model is developed by me, and the remaining two models are widely used. I have already discussed about PDCA, plan, do, check. You can use for SOPs. TPAC is highly used during this period, online education period. Okay, so the first is thorough. I would rather advise all the education institution to develop mechanism for this, for teachers in your institution using this model, thorough. What is this thorough is all about? As we are aware that our role is not only for the self-development, but our role is for the institution where we are working, and we have to our role again for the nation building. So just to evaluate our role on these different three criteria, I have developed a mechanism wherein I've used these 5 different words. T stands for teaching, A stands for administration, R stands for research, A stands for advisory, and L stands for learning. Now, again, this I have developed number of key questions that what, how a teacher is contributing in teaching, administration, research, advisory, and learning. What number of hours teacher is spending for learning. Learning does not mean that just to learn a book or read a book or listen a couple of videos. That's not learning. So yes, this is the entire model, which is a copyrighted model. And if you wish, I can share the entire module, and you can go through with this so that you can understand that you can get a lot of, lot of inputs from teachers, a lot of contribution from teachers in a systematic way. We as a teacher are facing challenges. The first challenge is disruptive innovation. Disruptive innovation we are aware with. They are the one which creates a new market by transforming or destroying the current market. So in our case, offline classes are now transformed, rather not, I would say not destroyed, but transformed to online education. And the tools which we used to use earlier is now totally changed. Right now, we are also learning on laptop, computer, mobile, iPad. I'm teaching through the same, same gadgets. So the first is the disruptive innovation, which many of our teachers facing. I would also like to tell you that we have a big gap between Generation X and Generation Z. We, as a teacher, we are Generation X. And the students which are coming nowadays, they are Generation Z. They are the digital natives. Who are digital natives, we'll discuss about them later. Outcome-based education means we have to put more stress on outcome, course outcome, program outcome, and we have to be sure about the end result, not in form of output, but in the form of outcome. Transdisciplinary research. Yes, why our research is not liked by many of the university or cited by many of the world's best university, because we are not writing a research paper which is actually the need of the hour. Means our research is not of transdisciplinary nature. I'll just give you a quick introduction about this concept called transdisciplinary research. There are basically 4 domains: disciplinary, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. Disciplinary is single structure, single way, single domain, single subject, single area, single program. Multidisciplinary means when you have more than one discipline or domain. Say, for example, somewhere in 90s, we used to do research on socio-economic condition of so and so city of India. So socio-economy, sociology, as well as economic. So like teachers used to do research keeping in mind these 2 different perspectives, and that was the multidisciplinary research, which is outdated now. Long back, we used to do that in 1990s. Yes, then interdisciplinary came, where 2 or more subjects integrate and develop a new subject, and that new subject research is the interdisciplinary research. Say, for example, forensic accounting, wherein forensic science and accounts, these 2 are different subjects, and we have developed one more out of it, and if we are contributing, and that also now outdated. So the latest research should be of transdisciplinary. Even the UGC has launched a scheme called STRIDE, that is also based on transdisciplinary research. That's a different story, that even the many faculty members' proposal was selected without, that the proposal was not of this transdisciplinary nature. So what is transdisciplinary? When you integrate more than 2-3 domains in one research, which addresses to the public problem or public policies or the public issues, then it is known as transdisciplinary research. You are integrating more than 2-3 domains, and you are addressing problems of public. If you do this, then I must say that it's a transdisciplinary research. So one should try to learn this, develop. Even I would request the university to organize a workshop or seminar on this type of research, so that we can have more and more number of research based on this approach. Then education, innovation, e-learning, acquisition, application, producer versus consumer. I'm not going in detail about this. These are the challenges faced by higher education institution. Earlier, I was talking about the teachers. Now, these are by the higher education institution, university and colleges. We are suffering from institutional crisis. Institutional crises are of 3 types: motivational crisis, legitimacy crisis, and rationality crisis. Because many of us are not in position to say what is right and what is wrong, or sometimes we are not in a position to even understand what is right and wrong. Rationality crisis, motivation crisis. Even we are not motivated to contribute something significantly to the society or to the institution. In short, across the globe, institutions are facing this problem. The second is dogmatic slumber mat. Making a system dogmatic means nobody is trying to contribute, rather they are consuming it. So we are more knowledge consumers than the knowledge producer, which makes us more dogmatic. Partial attention deficit syndrome. Right now also, many of you are attending this session, but at the same time, you're doing something else also. Your concentration is not 100%. We are suffering from PADC, partial attention deficit syndrome. Even if you take this example today, when you take a dinner with your family members, you just see none of family members also, they give full attention while taking dinner. They are either busy with the computer, laptop, iPad, mobile, TV, or they are thinking something, or they are listening some music. Difficult. Yes, this is also a challenge for us. Dark emotions. There are 84,000 types of dark emotions, but the main 8 types of dark emotions are fear, anger, lust, greed, jealousy. These are the major dark emotions. And today also you will find this in our institution, amongst the faculty members, amongst the students, because we have failed to choose the correct thing. So dark emotions, how to overcome this? Again, it's a big challenge for us. Lack of critical and creative as well as self-reflexive skills. And therefore, we are not producing something well. We are more towards teaching and less towards learning. We spend a lot of time, 18 hours, 24 hours for teaching, but we give less time for learning. Information share. As I discussed earlier, that there are 4 ways, 4 sources of knowledge, but unfortunately, we are focusing more only on one, and that is information. I've used here truth versus truth, T capital and T small. Unfortunately, there is nothing called capital T in truth. Truth is always small t. The moment you believe this, you will be able to contribute something. And the moment you believe that this is a truth, that is capital T, you will not be able to contribute anything. So keep T always small. Quality. Again, the parameters which all the assessment and accreditation agencies are using, it's a qualifying parameters. They are not quality parameters. I'll come to that, what can be a quality parameters. So almost all parameters are qualified, means quantified. How many research papers you have written during last 5 years. So again, numbers. So even the agencies are unable to understand that what can be the quality parameters. We have a fluctuating leaders. Principals are appointed for 5 years. Vice chancellors are appointed for 3 years. Again, under a lot of pressures. So we have a fluctuating leaders as well as moving targets. So there is no consistency in the goals also by the higher education institution. So these are the main problems actually we are facing right now. Coming to this old paradigm and new paradigm, I would like to give one more example here. I was talking about digital natives. Digital natives are the Generation Z learners, and we are the digital immigrants, Generation X learners. So those who are born after 1996 or 2000, they are known as digital natives. They are known as Generation Z students. They born with a laptop and they're born with mobile phones and all. So they are very smart. Now, how to teach these people? It's a big question. So quality institution must bridge the gap between resilient and smart. Again, I would say smart in the context of educational institution is highly misunderstood. Smart does not mean smart class. When say class with a smart digital interactive board is designated as a smart class, without realizing that smart class is created by a smart teacher with or without smart board. A smart class without a smart teacher is as conventional as many other class without the smart boards. So smart classroom is not about smart classes only. So the challenge for quality institution is to create a smart institution that are able to meet the developments of learning needs, preferences, and styles of the students with a single point agenda of improving cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. You see here in old paradigm, it was more of teacher centric, but in new paradigm, we'll have to focus more on students. So earlier it was more of teaching, now it should be more of learning. We should earlier used to, share lesson plans with notes and all, but now learning design is must in the college. So if university has no learning design, no plan for the learning design, then again, it's of no use. Earlier teachers were active in class, but now students are not only in active class, but they are outside class also. Earlier teacher training was part of improving teachers training, but now teachers training should be given to improve learning outcome. So the faculty development program which you are organizing, the purpose of that should be to improve learning outcome of the teachers. So in short, we are no longer sage on the stage, right? Earlier in 90s, we used to have monopoly of knowledge, but now you can see the sources of knowledge which are available. So our role is now changed. Our role is not limited to teaching students, but at the other way, the role of teacher is to facilitate students and facilitate about the right knowledge, right information. Coming to this TPAC model, I was talking about technological, pedagogical, content knowledge model. If you do not have this model right now, and if you are imparting online education, then I must say that you are doing big mistake. It's a largely, as you are known, that it's largely followed by the institution during pandemic, and I am of the opinion that online education always subjugate the creativity, because it's failed to develop the critical and creative pedagogical content. But somehow this model is development helping the teachers and students a lot in developing this type of tools. So this TPAC is not about TPAC only. It is divided in 6 different parts. TPK, that is technological pedagogical knowledge. Then TCK, technological content knowledge. PCK, pedagogical content knowledge. Then TK, technological knowledge, content knowledge, and pedagogical knowledge. So in short, a teachers as well as student should try to develop and impart and share this all types of knowledge to the students. Then only you will be able to give quality online education to the students. We have also talked a lot about blended learning or flipped learning. Literal meaning you must be knowing of the flip. Flip is all about turnover. Flipped learning technically means turning over or flipping over the sequence of the event of learning. Now, but again, there is a concept called FBLD. FBLD stands for Flipped Blended Learning Design. So these are the steps, or you can say a process of designing flipped blended learning in your college or university, wherein you can start with understanding the content, how you will be improving with this FBLD. Then scope of FBLD should also be covered, like for the entire syllabus you are going to use this flip-based learning, or for unit only, or for chapter only. Then you have to again define the learning outcome of flip-based learning also. Instrument for formative assessment and learning outcome for flip-based learning, accessing learning outcomes, FBLD learning templates, a review of result and experience, and developing FBLD bank. which can be used every year if it is not outdated. Taxonomies. A single sentence, I would say, what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is nothing but it's scientific classification. Those who are from science, so then this this particular, what do you say, term is very common. The term is very common for science background people, but those who are from arts, humanities, and for commerce, for them, this word is little bit different. Taxonomy is nothing but its scientific classification. There are right now 4 types of taxonomy. Many of the agencies, they are still following this Bloom's taxonomy, but I must say that Bloom's taxonomy is now outdated. Why it is outdated and why the other taxonomy is very much important nowadays, and the role of such taxonomy is more important nowadays looking to the current scenario, I'll explain that. If you see here, in Bloom's taxonomy, the major focus is on the learning levels, which starts with remembering, then understanding. A student is able to remember the particular question, or student is able to understand the concept, or is able to apply the concept, analyze the concept. The last is creating. So the last phase of Bloom's taxonomy is creating. Student is able to create something. So this is the taxonomy to measure the learning outcome of the student, from remembering to creating, divided in these 6 levels, different levels. So we have a different set of questions also. When you ask what is, when you ask explain, these are all a nature of remembering. इसको हम लोग लिंक कर सकते हैं आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर से. क्वेश्चन पेपर से मैं बता सकता हूँ which type of learning level you are assessing from the student. You are only focusing on the remembering part, or you are focusing on the creating part. So it based on the quality of the question which you asked in examination. Solo taxonomy is it's quite new for you, maybe. It's a structure of the observed learning outcome. That is the full form of solo. Developed by John Biggs and Kevin Pullis in 1982. Now, what is the difference? The solo has 5 stages instead of 6. In Bloom's it was 6. In solo we have 5 stages, wherein it focuses on 5 areas starting from pre-structural to extended abstract. So it is almost similar kind, but the major part which is focused here is on the complexity of the learning. So complexity is the main point or main word which is focused in solo taxonomy. So if your syllabus is more complex in nature, and if you want to assess, then go with this solo taxonomy instead of a Bloom's taxonomy. Then the next is 6 facets of learning. This is again this was developed by Wiggins and McShee in 1998, and it was based on the premises that a student truly understand or not. So again, this is more like Bloom's taxonomy, which starts from the explanation, interpretation, applying, perspective, emphasizing, and creating a self-knowledge. So almost it starts from explaining to creating self-reflexivity or self-knowledge. I would say that looking to the present scenario, the best taxonomy which can be implemented in college is Fink's taxonomy, because Fink's taxonomy focuses on the learner's perspective, as well as it takes into account the human dimension and caring part. So these two words are very important: human dimensions and caring. So yes, so if you ask me that which one is better, of course it depends on the syllabus of your university. But looking to the present scenario, if your syllabus involves or incorporates human dimension and the caring part, then I would say that is a good thing. So Fink's taxonomy is better as compared to. Yes. Then, yes, this is again the most important part: discipline of learning. Discipline of learning introduced by Japan. How to learn, how to unlearn, and how to relearn. So Japan was the first nation to launch this or start this type of discipline of learning how to learn. And agnotology.
अच्छा यही तो है
So you can
Okay.
continue, sir.
Okay. Okay. Agnotology is about the academia which is unknown or yet to explore. I'll tell you the concept of agnotology in one word only. Agnotology is equal to area of ignorance. आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी या आपके कॉलेज ने क्या एरिया ऑफ इग्नोरेंस को पहले फाइंड किया? See, knowledge is limited, ignorance is unlimited. Knowledge is finite, ignorance is infinite. So if you wish to develop your institution, you should or you must introduce this discipline. You must focus on ignorance. And how it is possible? It is possible via mapping ignorance, exploring area of ignorance, spreading awareness about ignorance, and introducing a discipline of learning how to learn, unlearn, and relearn. One more thing. I was talking about role of teachers for nation building. We have heard about this different quotient. What is quotient? Quotient is nothing but it's a specific quality or it's a specific characteristics. We have heard about intellectual quotient or intelligence quotient, emotional quotient, social quotient, spiritual quotient, and passion quotient. The last AQ stands for adversity quotient. What is the role of this adversity quotient? The purpose of adversity quotient is to measure the ability to go through a rough patch in life and come out without losing your mind. As we have seen, during the time of Corona, it means even the current time of Corona, many professionally successful people are going through bouts of depression because they have not seen and because of that, they have not seen this type of situation earlier. They have never faced this type of adversity in life, crisis in life. And therefore, they were unprepared for this type of adversity. So, institution should always focus not only on IQ, EQ, SQ, PQ, but on AQ also. AQ adversity quotient. I was talking about quality, that there are pillars of quality, or these 4 pillars can ensure quality at higher education institution. This quality will save institution from 3 crises which I have mentioned: motivation, legitimacy, and rationality. I also tell you that there cannot be standards and indicators for quality. Quality is a continuous process. It is never ending process. So you just cannot say that these are the standards, these are the parameters, these are the numbers which is required for quality. No. So what is or how to ensure this term quality? I repeat, there are 4 pillars. Number 1 is rationality. Second is communicability. Third is negotiability. And 4th is shareability. Now, if these 4 pillars are properly nurtured or are properly incorporated in your system, then quality is possible. I repeat, rationality, communicability, negotiability, and shareability. Now see, these all 4 pillars, you cannot quantify this. If I ask you to quantify, you will not be able to quantify. Can you tell me that you are communicated to me 100% good? No. Can you say that you have rationality of 20% or 30%? No. The things which you cannot quantify is, of course, quality. And these 4 are the, you can say, pillars. If your institution is on these 4 pillars, then I must say you are serving a quality education in the society. One more thing, the last thing, ethics of caring. The other is me and nature is not the other. In recent time, ethical neutrality is suspended, as we have observed. So natural calamities are to be treated in ethical mode as a misbehavior on the part of humanity culture. How one respect the nature is important. So culture, society, which respect the nature and consider it as not other. I would say finally that if a child can do advanced maths, speak 3 languages, or receive top grades, but can't manage his emotions, practice conflict resolution, or handle stress, none of the other stuff is really going to matter. I still remember the World Cup match, the last World Cup match won by the England. We know, we have witnessed the issues, but the smile and dignity of the glorious response from the New Zealand team captain Williamson during that final match of World Cup is the sign and significance of civilized culture. If you have not seen that particular match, you must see, you will see the difference that what civilized culture is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, all the participants. And respected sir, for your eye-opening presentation on national education policy. And it will be very fruitful for all of us. And I'm very sure, sir, that after your presentation, our criteria for NEP should be widened and will be on right path. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Now, anybody have any question related to the presentation, you can ask now. Anybody want to ask any question to sir?
Kalpana Joshi.
Yes, Kalpana Joshi, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir and ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. बहुत ही amazing session था आपका.
Thank you, ma'am.
एक छोटी सी बात पूछना चाहती हूँ. आपने 2 ट्रुथ के बारे में, कैपिटल ट्रुथ वर्सेस स्मॉल ट्रुथ बताया.
जी
थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में मुझे डिटेल जानना चाहती हूँ. इज इट जस्ट लाइक कैपिटल ट्रूथ और ट्रूथ इज यूनिवर्सल एंड डायनामिक लाइक दैट और एनीथिंग एल्स? Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kalpana. See, truth, when we say capital, it is singular. And truth can never be singular. The moment you say this truth has a singularity, you are over. There is no scope of development. You cannot explore further. अगर रिसर्च में सबने ये मान लिया कि ये ही सच है, तो वहां रुक जाता है, फिर आगे नहीं बढ़ता. हमारा काम क्या है? आगे बढ़ना. एक चीज हो गई, आगे बढ़ो. एक चीज हो गई और आगे बढ़ो. वो कब हो सकता है? जब ट्रूथ टी स्मॉल हो. मान लिया हमने टी कैपिटल है, यानी यही सच है, इसके आगे कुछ नहीं है, तो कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे, हम लोग वहीं स्टॉप हो जाएंगे. इसलिए एक वर्ड है जो मैं बार बार दोहराता हूँ, वो है ट्रूथ ऑफ डिसिप्लिन एंड डिसिप्लिन ऑफ ट्रूथ. ये दो बहुत ही बढ़िया शब्द है. ट्रूथ ऑफ डिसिप्लिन एंड डिसिप्लिन ऑफ ट्रूथ. अब देखने जाए और समझने जाए तो मजे की बात यह है कि आपको एक टाइम पे ऐसे ही लगेगा दोनों का मतलब सेम है, बट नहीं है. ट्रूथ ऑफ डिसिप्लिन की जब हम लोग बात करते हैं, तब एक डिसिप्लिन यानी एक सब्जेक्ट में एक स्ट्रक्चर में हम लोग ट्रैवल करते हैं. यानी हम लोग ये मान के चलते हैं कि ये डिसिप्लिन है और ये उसका ट्रूथ है, बस ये है ट्रूथ ऑफ डिसिप्लिन. However, the other side is discipline of truth, wherein we go beyond boundaries. हम लोग पहले ये मान लेते कि ये सच है, बट वो गलत भी हो सकता है, तो पहले एक्सप्लोर करो आउटसाइड. तो यही फर्क है टी में और ट्रू में. अदर वे यू कैन से द कैपिटल टी इज अ सिंगुलर, प्लूरल दैट स्मॉल टी इज अ प्लूरल. आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Amazing, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
One more question from Ayushi Gupta.
जी,
Can you please explain the solo taxonomy again and the one taxonomy which is ideal for college students?
college too. Okay. Again, I must say that jumping on one particular taxonomy and telling that this taxonomy is good, again, I am violating my own statement that T and T, capital T versus small t. Again, it depends on the syllabus of your college. Why I said that Fink's taxonomy is better, because they have incorporated two important dimensions: human dimension and carrying dimension. Carrying is the word which only Fink's taxonomy has introduced. Out of all the, so carrying word is very important. Nowadays, people are not cared about anything. They become so selfish, self-centered. So caring about the nature, caring about the people, caring about the other, that is a one particular dimension, and human dimension. These two things are covered in Fink's. Therefore, I believe that Fink's taxonomy is better. Coming to solo taxonomy, the structure of observed learning outcome, wherein we have again 5 different levels of knowing the complexity of the subject. Means a students की अंडरस्टैंडिंग में क्या अलग अलग कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी के लेवल्स आते हैं, पहले ही समझने में ही उसको नहीं आता है. यानी जब सब्जेक्ट की बात करते हैं, एक सब्जेक्ट जब मैं पढ़ा रहा हूँ, तो सब्जेक्ट का उसको प्री स्ट्रक्चरल फॉर्मेट ही पता नहीं, उसको उसका बेसिक ही पता नहीं. जब 10th में मैं फैक्टराइजेशन पढ़ाता हूँ फॉर एग्जांपल, तो उसका 8th का जो फैक्टराइजेशन का बेस होता है वो उसको पता नहीं. तो वो प्री स्ट्रक्चरल प्रॉब्लम हो गया, प्री स्ट्रक्चरल कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी हो गई. कई स्टूडेंट को ऐसा होता है कि नहीं, वो उसी टाइम पे उसको प्रॉब्लम होता है, तो स्ट्रक्चरल कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी होगी. तो वैसे करके ये कॉम्प्लेक्स मोड को उन्होंने 5 अलग अलग डिवीजन में डाला हुआ है, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम प्री एरिया टू द अंडरस्टैंडिंग. तो ये है स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ ऑब्जर्व लर्निंग आउटकम, सोलो जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं, सोलो टैक्सोनॉमी. अभी भी काफी कॉलेजेस में जब हम लोग पीयर टीम विजिट में जाते हैं, तो उन लोगों ने बहुत बड़े चार्ट्स लगाए होते हैं पीओ पीएसओ सीओ के, और हम लोगों को बताते हैं कि लाइक ये हम लोग ब्लूम्स टैक्सोनॉमी फॉलो करते हैं इसके लिए क्या आउटकम बेस्ड एजुकेशन. but that is again outdated now. But so I just wanted to tell you that ये भी है और आप लोग इसको भी एक्सप्लोर करना चाहिए, नहीं कि किसी ने बताया ब्लूम्स तो ब्लूम्स पे ही चलो, आप और भी जगह पे जाके और भी चीजों में और भी टेक्सोनॉमीज की स्टडी करके इंप्लीमेंट कर सकते। पर्पस एक ही है, लर्निंग आउटकम को मापना, चेक करो।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आपने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से मतलब बोलना चाहिए क्वेश्चनिंग और लर्निंग मतलब नॉलेज जनरेशन के बीच में एक बहुत अच्छा मतलब बोलना चाहिए एक ब्रिज बनाया है कि आप विदाउट क्वेश्चनिंग आप नॉलेज जनरेट नहीं कर सकते हैं। सर वेरी थैंक you very much from the Makhanlal University. From my side also, it is very great pleasure to hear you here, sir.